What is the distinction between earn more versus grow more?
What an insane model.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm here as a stand against that.
Do you think everyone has the ability to create income producing assets?
Do they have the ability? Unfortunately, the majority of the population has been lied to.
I feel like I'm always trading my time for money.
Time for money is always going to have a ceiling. I wasted 10 years of my life deeply entrenched in real estate, draining my energy.
What's the difference between trading time for money versus income producing assets?
I started over and basically in 12 months had already replenished 6 figures a month of recurring revenue.
The last time we talked about how to earn more. And that kind of leads into what you were later talking about. How do you grow what you've earned?
Yeah, man, it's make more, keep more of what you make without cutting back, and then grow your money. And it's a lot easier said than done unless people just want to mindlessly put money into mutual funds. There's a lot of lessons along the way, and there's a lot of investments that don't create cash flow. There's a lot that are advertised as high return, but they're really very risky. And there's others that just get kind of mediocre returns. So there's a lot out there. I want to help navigate that landscape so that people could understand, like, what are the things going to help you become financially independent? You have enough cash flow from assets to cover your expenses.
Okay, I'm ready to get into it. For those of you who don't know, this is Garrett Gunderson, #1 New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author of Killing Sacred Cows. And I'm lucky enough to get to be the voice for you, our audience, to ask Garrett about real takeaways that help you and me become financially fit and independent and free in the near future.
Yeah, and Weston is a director, producer extraordinaire. We worked together, I think it was like in 2017, creating this Meeting Crashers video. They got millions of views, and it's pretty amazing that people think he's AI Weston, because he's not on camera.
Yeah. So what is the distinction between earn more versus grow more?
Yeah, so earning is like the money that you make. It's your income. It's how you serve people, solve problems, add value, and get paid for that.
Yeah.
Where grow is more like, how do you make money on your money? Different skill set. It's a different skill set to keep the money that you make than it is to grow your money, than it is to earn your money. And some people are good at one or two of them, but not a lot of people are good at all three. And if you are, that's like the trifecta. It really has a synergistic kind of effect.
Yeah. The part that I feel like I'm always stuck in is I feel like I'm always trading my time for money. So how do you shift from that trading time for money versus having basically what sounds like your money, you make more money?
Well, you've got to pick your kind of asset / income generators.
Okay.
Right. And the thing is, a lot of people just want to be really passive.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be really passive, it's hard to create passive income. As ironic and kind of as crazy as that sounds, it's just the more passive you are up front, the less income you're going to get. The more active you are up front, the more passive that income can become if it's putting your money to work. And there's really the big three, right? There's the big three kind of income generators.
Yeah.
The first one is real estate. Now, I'm not the biggest real estate fan. I did invest in a lot of real estate in my 20s, and it was just a lot of work. It was very tedious. I didn't enjoy it. But I had heard so many people, oh yeah, if you're going to have wealth, you got to store it in real estate. And I get it, because first off, it's a capital gain asset. So as that grows, you're not paying taxes on the growth other than property taxes. Yeah. When you sell, it's a lower tax rate than ordinary income, and you can borrow against it tax-free. So I could see how that's a pretty big thing. The second thing is you might be able to depreciate it for tax purposes, which means you get these deductions, because even though the property might be going up in value, there's certain things about the property that are going out of style that need to be replaced over time. Anything from paint and carpet and, different structures. So you can appreciate it for tax purposes, and you hopefully can get cash flow. You can have renters that create cash flow. So it's kind of this three-dimensional asset.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of ways to do it, whether it's commercial real estate, whether it's Airbnb, whether it's just, residential real estate, whether it's single family homes. Some people do different things like fix and flip. They'll buy a property, fix it up and sell it. That's not necessarily a cash flow generator. But if you're looking to create cash flow, real estate is one of those engines. But I will say for the last couple of years, it's been really tough in real estate. We had high interest rates, We just had a very competitive market. There's just a lot of factors that some people could be underwater if they just started. But the second thing is business. And business isn't that much different than real estate. I mean, it is a capital gain asset. You can have a growth in value and equity. You're not paying tax on that growth until you sell the business, but there might be ways to sell it tax-free. B, you do have all these tax advantages. As a business owner, you have substantial tax advantages from how you pay yourself that might avoid certain taxes to, I don't know, like when you sell the business, something called the Section 1202 that might let you sell a C Corp up to $10 million per partner tax-free. There's just all sorts of write-offs that you can now have, home office deductions and, travel expenses. I mean, there's just so many tax advantages. And then you also hopefully can create cash flow with that. If you build infrastructure and you have employees, hopefully you have income that comes in, even if you don't go to the office or open a computer that day. That might take time, but ultimately that's another thing that can help create economic independence is entrepreneurial income. Now, if you're a sole proprietor and you have no employees, you basically are self-employed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like a lot of times you're still trading time for money.
Yeah, we got Robert Kiyosaki had that great book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, right? And he was basically like, over here was self-employed, but over here was like a business owner, an investor, right? And this was someone that had a job. And basically he's like, how do you get to this other side where you have businesses and investments? And so we're looking here at real estate and business. But I even think there's a really powerful business, and this is something that Kiyosaki is absolutely building an empire on, which is intellectual property. You look at Kiyosaki as a real estate investor, right? That was kind of his business initially. Then he became a real estate educator, which was the business. And then he started to create massive amounts of IP beyond just real estate with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, the cash flow game. I mean, a whole bunch of things. And that got him to be extraordinarily well known and extraordinarily wealthy. And intellectual property is one of those things that you only pay tax when you sell it. When you're selling books, when you're selling courses, when you're selling stuff like that, you can live wherever you want. It's something that could be a sellable asset to other entities. I know many authors that have sold part of their intellectual property library to a third party and got paid for that. Again, it could be treated where you get write-offs and things that way. But to me, these are like the big three: real estate, business, and IP. And within each of those, there's a lot of dimensions. But the thing is, Weston, all this requires work. All this requires knowledge. All this requires insight.
Like, what are some examples of people you've seen who've created income producing assets?
Like I just was going to be on a call earlier with someone that is in, the grandmaster in Taekwondo. They had studios and they eventually just developed the software for all martial arts studios.
Oh, okay.
They just sold that business, and so they just saw, oh, hey, look, we can have software that everybody could support because of what they're building for themselves. And then they were able to create that software. And that was just like, they just saw that and were able to fill that niche and say, oh, here's something that other people want. I mean, I think one of the more creative things is once we were hosting an event and we had these people that were passionate about going to Disneyland, and they built a site on how to maximize your experience. And their ad revenue from that site was $60,000 a year. I mean, it's not like a game-changing amount of money, but they just took this passion project and made it profitable.
And they were just telling people how to maximize their experience at Disney?
Yep. Wow. And they got so much traffic on the website that then they did Google Ads. I mean, I think about my little sister, when she was a teacher, she's now a vice principal, but she created a website called What the Teacher Really Wants. And she showed people how to like set up cool projects in their classrooms and had great ideas. And so that blog was the second most trafficked blog in teaching. And she was making more from the blog and speaking than even being a teacher. So you look at that, like she still had a W-2 job, but she found a way to kind of have this side hustle, so to speak, that created extra value in the things that she was really good at because she was a teacher of the year one year at a pretty young age. And, some ways to be like an entrepreneur. And instead of an entrepreneur kind of works in an organization, but they have upside potential. Our mutual friend, Rich Christensen, has a book called Bootstrap Business. And I love it because he talks about like, a lot of people say they want to be owners, but they don't want to be owners because owners, if there's a lawsuit, that's on the owner.
Yeah.
If there's a capital call, that's on the owner. If there's not taking income for a bit, that's on the owner. And what they really are looking for is feeling like they're part of something and upside potential. So upside potential without all the downside risk of being an owner. And so an entrepreneur says, as I contribute to the bottom line, I get to participate in it. As I help the company grow, I get a piece of those proceeds. And so that can truly happen as a salesperson. There's a lot of salespeople that get paid $10.99, which is essentially like still on the self-employed side of the cash flow quadrant, but you're learning instrumental skill sets that could be, utilized in pretty much any industry afterwards.
Everyone tries to like pigeonhole themselves into, oh, I got to get into real estate if I need an income producing asset. But it's like, they're not interested in real estate, or they hate the idea of it.
I wasted 10 years of my life deeply entrenched in real estate, draining my energy.
Yeah.
Like I'd be trick-or-treating. We're in the most beautiful neighborhood, Steeplechase, in this town, Draper, Utah. I mean, just epic houses, decorated. And I'm on the phone the entire time dealing with some real estate stuff.
Yeah.
I'm hosting a Super Bowl party at my house. It's my grandfather's birthday. And the whole time I'm on a phone because of something that was going on with one of my properties.
Yeah.
I was on vacation with my wife at the Lowe's Ventana Resort in Arizona. And the whole time I'm working on closing a real estate deal because it's when the real estate's ready, not when I'm ready.
Yeah.
It was really hard to create structure on my life. And I just found myself going to banks to do closings, talking to, mortgage people, talking to attorneys for drafting of documents, meeting with property managers, having deferred maintenance issues. And ultimately, it was never something that I enjoyed. It was something I thought I should do. And I got seduced into it because when I was 19 years old, about to turn 20, I bought my first home. It was on a champ loan, so it was no down payment. My mom was a co-signer. I rented out the other rooms to college roommates. And when I sold that property, it went from like $96,000 to $170,000 or $176,000 when I sold it. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then, I did another deal where I just funded some money for escrow, got back $50,000 from the $25,000 I gave 3 months later. Then the third deal was no money down, buying a property, renting it out to the person that owned it that was behind on payments. And then when they refinanced, taking half of the equity for being able to save the house for them. And so I just thinking, dude, I'm so good at this real estate thing. Why not do a lot more?
Yeah. Oh.
And so then I just started to buy all this real estate, especially in like Ogden, Utah, that wasn't the nicest real estate, which meant like we had people stealing our copper wire. We had people renting but squatting and not paying their stuff, not taking care of the yard like it was supposed to be done as part of the contract, not treating the place as well and having to fix them up. And so it just became really like a full-time position for me, not doing the things I enjoyed, which was my business and, all those things, or even having time with my family. And I thought, Weston was like, well, this is the right thing to do. I'm going to help retire my parents because I'm using their credit and they're going to have all this real estate cash flowing. And then I'll have this real estate cash flowing. So I have more options and choice, but it became something that consumed my time and my energy. And some people are really good at it. They're built for it. They love it. It's just not my DNA.
Yeah.
I love to sit down and write. Some people loathe that. They would hate to do that, but I enjoy it. And I enjoy that process. So yeah, I write books and I've got 10 and one on the way. That's something that I really enjoy. I write articles every single week. I love doing webinars or speaking on stage. I love doing one-on-one strategy sessions right here at this table during my immersions. That's what lights me up, not real estate. And when people would meet me and they'd see like, where are you investing? I had these 2 IPOs I was invested in. I had a bridge financing, hard money lending fund that I was raising capital for. I had over 100 properties that I own between 20 and 100% of. I had, what else did I have going on? I own a commercial building, 45% of this, 45,000 square foot building, which, by the way, was just a huge undertaking because we built it from scratch. We had major issues during building and development. It was a huge pain. It was a money suck, but I was like, I'm doing real estate. So I have all this stuff. And on paper at the time, I was worth $8 million and everything was going pretty good. But now we're looking at me in my 40s, I have such a simpler thing. I have a bunch of cash value in my whole life policies. I have 3 real estate properties. All, as you've seen, very nice properties, hard to acquire, not necessarily cash flowing, although I could if I chose to. I've got some Bitcoin, and then I've got my businesses. And I really just kept it a whole lot simpler. I say no to a lot of things. Now, I have a few other things like where I've invested in a startup that it was something that I really believed in, but a lot of times that's just a distraction.
So is your cash flow more or less now?
Oh, the cash flow is way higher because basically I sold my company in 2021, right? I really took time to do a comedy tour and film a comedy special. And that was kind of like my little mini retirement enjoyment. And then in 2023, I really went through kidney disease and, basically divorcing my company and unwinding a partnership. And then in 2024, I finally like got really clear, like what I'm up to. Multiplier. Multiplier is my financial community. I'm teaching every single week. I consider it like the financial gym.
Yeah.
Like if you just meet with a financial advisor a few times a year, there's missing pieces to the mindset, to having a little bit of like money therapy, to designing your life and having a vision, to improving cash flow, to making adjustments along the way, to being empowered, like all those kind of things. Like that is the thing that I'm going to dedicate my life to. We've got one-on-one coaches, but I teach every single week. We're going to eventually have in-person events as well. Like that was invented in 2024, and that's already creating really good cash flow because people are paying $500 a month for that. We have a good number of people in there. And then I also this year decided, you know what, and it's not even finalized, but I'm going to launch a life insurance agency because I have this book, What Would the Rockefellers Do, that sells a ton of life insurance. And we've sent 150,000 leads over the years to these insurance agents, and they all have renewals and I have none. And I was like, I don't want to be cornered into being a life insurance person, was part of the reason I didn't do it. But I thought, how could we revolutionize life insurance? We could have, policyholder passports and give them AI tools to analyze their policies, have annual events where they can come together and learn about the Rockefeller method and how to create a legacy that lasts and how to, build a foundational tool for their wealth and really create an experience for people that just doesn't exist in the industry. We can completely disrupt it, and we could partner with some amazing people that are doing innovative things. And those are the conversations we're having right now. Then I was like, why don't I even just, license my programs to financial advisors that agree with my philosophy? And by the way, life insurance has renewals. My licensing has a monthly fee to belong to it, and multipliers monthly. So, in 2024, basically in 2023, I cut off all my recurring revenue from companies that I had involvement with and killed the licensing deals and started over. And basically in 12 months had already replenished 6 figures a month of recurring revenue. Now I did that because I had the mental capital and I had the relationship capital. Like right now, when this is over, I'm doing a webinar with one of my friends that is introducing me to his community. I did one of those just 2 days ago with the community. I did one for my community last night. Like I can have this one-to-many educational system that helps sift, sort, and screen to find the right people for our multiplier program. Plus, we can run ads. Like I have all this skill set and I have these great relationships to have that happen. And so part of it is, what is the mental capital that's going to be required for you to create more cash flow? You've got it's not like people are just born with it. I want to be an advocate for that person that's going like, what do I do? Well, you don't just chase a return without having a philosophy. You don't do things that you hate in the name of a better life in the future. You figure out where do you have a competency? Where do you have things that drive you, that you enjoy? Where do you have those levels of interest and even desire? And where might you even get obsessed because it's just something that you enjoy? Like I think of my buddy, Mark Moss, he's obsessed with Bitcoin and it's been extraordinarily profound for him and his community. So like that, you've developed your mental capital. And it's not by learning everything about real estate and then learning as much as you can about business and learning as much as you can about IP and then learning as much as you can about Bitcoin and then learning about tax liens and learning about stock trading. You're going to start by picking a lane.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is it shows as you got more focused, your cash flow increased. Maybe your net worth went down, but your cash flow increased.
And it's hard as hell to focus.
Yeah.
Like when there's a level of success, there's more opportunity, but a lot of those opportunities are distraction.
Yeah.
And part of the distraction is, for some people, it might be the distractions are, well, they have bills to pay. They have debt that they're under. Mm-hmm. They have obligations with family or with, people that they owe something to. Yeah. And so these kind of things can feel like a lot of pressure. And so what they think is, I got to get out from under this, and I'm just going to temporarily do this, trade my time for money to get to the other side. But it becomes habitual.
Yeah. Well, it also kills your energy for, the mental capital side. Thinking of someone in our audience who's trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to where I can have assets that produce income that cover my, daily expenses? Where would they start? Like, how do they start figuring out what fits them?
I can't answer that for you. You have to answer that for yourself, but not second guess.
Okay.
Is it real estate? Is that something that lights you up? Do you enjoy that? Are you interested in business and learning about business? There's so many businesses out there. There's people that build brands, and there are content creators. There are people that are in manufacturing. There are people that are in software as a service. There are people that are in, coaching. I mean, there's so many business opportunities out there, and yet you'd have to pick a lane. And by the way, once you enter that game, then you learn business as much as you learn what you're up to. Then maybe it might even be IP. Maybe it's just going to be learning more about Bitcoin. I think that's worth learning about, and something that people make a lot of money teaching about as well. I mean, but you've got to pick a lane. Like, what is it that's going to work for you? And in business, it might be that you're going to contribute to someone's business, and maybe it start with sales. Find a brilliant entrepreneur that you could be in the sales department for them, so that you could be in that ecoverse. You can learn from that culture. You can see the things that they know and be able to have them help grow you. I mean, that's what I'm doing with my kids.
Yeah.
My son's 17. When he turns 18, like, he's going right into a sales job. And we had a great conversation about it, because I'm like, man, those skills will serve you forever. Whether it's meeting a girl and you have some sales skills and have some game, whether it's, getting the next job, whether it's, selling someone on your vision and what you're up to. Like, we're in the game of sales. The best artists often are the best salespeople. The best comedians are the best at selling themselves in so many ways. And so I think that's just a lifetime skill. So that would be one thing that you could do. You could actually go work for an entrepreneur that's maybe good at real estate and say, how could you learn from them by being of incredible value? And the biggest payment would be what you'd learn. Or you go work for a business where you could learn from that individual by contributing to them. Or, whether you become part of someone's intellectual property team as someone that helps with editing and research, or with promotion, or whatever that might be. I mean, a lot of it is you can accelerate results instead of starting from scratch. Go work within an organization of someone that you know, trust, and admire. And when you contribute to them, it comes back to you in spades.
So intellectual property, is it typically you sharing knowledge that you have about something and people paying for access to that knowledge?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like, what knowledge does someone have? And I mean, it's pretty wild that I started writing Killing Sacred Cows December of 2006, right? Killing Sacred Cows, December of 2006. But that book, I gave that book to 20 billionaires in 2021, feeling confident that they would get some value from that book and find a level of alignment. I had one of them send me a picture of him sitting on a beach reading the book. The person that was hosting the event said it completely changed his trajectory financially, because he started to focus on cash flow versus accumulation. So, like, I was young in 2006. I was born in 1978. So do the math, AI Weston. By the way, it's my birthday coming up on Monday. And I asked ChatGPT how old I would be, and it gave me the wrong number.
Oh.
Like, it was 1 year off. I'm like, what? So just be careful with AI.
Especially with numbers.
But dude, it's crazy. But why could I write this book? Well, I started in finance in 1998, right? So I had around 8 years experience, but I had quick experience because I had losses for clients in the year 2000. And that led me down an aggressive track of being curious and figuring out what different things could be done, leveraging my young age to learn from really brilliant minds. And then the next thing that happened was I just had a partner or less that we just questioned with curiosity everything. Like, we just questioned everything. And we sat down, we're like, hey, our 401k is as good as we think. And when we're shocked to find out the answer was actually no. It's like, oh, damn. Like, and then I would go to an event, or I'd read an article, and I would call the person that wrote the article, or I'd go up to the person speaking at the event and get to know them, because I was like, dude, these guys have unique knowledge. They're the ones from the room, and I'm a kid, and being a kid, they like to pay it forward. So here we are, 8 years. I didn't have a ton of experience, but most people that have 30 years experience have 1 year experience, and they just keep reinforcing it 30 times over and don't learn enough. So I was able to write a financial classic. I mean, I know it sounds it sounds a little arrogant to say.
But it is. I was in business school, and I heard about your book before I knew you personally.
I was young, but I had experience because I aggressively was learning and questioning, and I just saw something other people didn't see. So it's not that you have to be 50, 60, 70 years old and completely wise to create intellectual property. It's just you have to be able to see something or organize something or put something together in a way that someone else can't. And maybe your market and the people you talk to are the people that your age that aren't thinking the same way that you do. I do think that there's a lot of intellectual property that could be produced because people build brilliant systems, or they take their knowledge and they improve their industry versus just keeping it to themselves. Or they show people how to experience Disneyland.
Yeah,
better.
exactly. The Disney one's very interesting because it's so simple.
Hey, future Garrett here. This channel is about principles you use, not just tips you forget. So we built the Income Asset DNA Discovery Tool, a 2-minute check-in that reveals your best fit income producing assets. You get a copy and paste AI prompt to explore your results and plan your next steps. Links below in the pinned comment. Don't hop over just yet. Open the link, finish this video, then hop on it to deepen your discovery and give yourself permission to prosper.
Has there ever been a person that you haven't been able to help turn something to an asset?
Totally. I was sitting with someone at this very table. Mm-hmm. They'd inherited money. They had been, a victim of multiple scams. Mm. And I just said, you know what? I'm not an investment advisor, so you should hire one. But if I were you, I'd just put all my money in an index fund and just know that the public markets will do better than what you're doing, losing a bunch of money and hemorrhaging it.
And what would you relate that to? Was that them not understanding their own investment?
Naive, confused, chasing returns, not clear on their premise, really tough upbringing. They had a lot of stuff that was clouding their judgment, confusing their mind, being overly nice and not critical enough about due diligence. I mean, there was a number of factors. And the reality was it was creating a lot of scarcity with their spouse. And so I was just like, hey, why not just put it somewhere where it's got some stability and liquidity?
Do you think everyone has the ability to create income producing assets?
Do they have the ability? Yes. Do they have the willingness? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the majority of the population does not have the willingness because people have been lied to, Weston.
Okay.
You don't have the time. You don't have the expertise. You've got to trust people with Ivy League degrees in Wall Street, and just hand your money over because they're going to do better than you. And you don't, just keep working and doing the job that you do. And so we've just been indoctrinated that we just have to be in it for the long haul, that high risk equals high return. We just got to be willing to take that volatility, and it takes money to make money. That has led people to be mindless with their money. And if they're not going to create good money habits, which often they don't create other good habits in their life to design a life that they enjoy, then what happens is they're not going to do the work. And look, there's gurus that know that. Like Dave Ramsey just kind of knows it. He's like, hey man, I know that a 30-year paid like a 15-year mortgage is going to pay off in 15 years, but 97% of people won't do it. So he just speaks to the lowest common denominator. Yeah. Hey, this is this is what everyone's willing to do.
Safest way to go.
I'm kind of going, well, let's just raise the bar. Let's create a higher standard. And that's not going to be good for everybody to listen to, but I'm an advocate for someone.
Yeah.
I see their potential, want to turn that to production. I love to watch someone discover their capabilities, to be a better value creator, to be in the world of service, to feel like they master money instead of money being their master, where they break free from that mindset and they feel more peace of mind and joy and fulfillment, where they live more of their soul purpose. That lights me up. That excites me.
And what's the difference between like a person's potential who's trading time for money versus having income producing assets? What have you seen?
Time for money is always going to have a ceiling. I was in college and I took this weekend job. It was a inbound marketing. They would call and I would be a customer service rep for the most part for like 10 companies.
Yeah.
Like US Robotics was one of them. And, we fulfill orders and we just see which company they're calling and answer, and got paid by the hour. Mm-hmm. I remember turning to my buddy Anthony and I was like, yeah, dude, if we were just work, 60 hours, we can make this much money. We just laughed. Like there's not that much. And that'd be exhausting. We only worked 2 days a week and we hated it.
Jeez.
And so that's time for money.
Yeah.
It's so linear and limited. You hit that ceiling.
Yeah.
So there's a time for money model that everybody's kind of taught is, all right, work in a job and sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And the reason to sacrifice is because you get benefits.
Yeah.
So those benefits are worth something. And by the way, those companies call them golden handcuffs. How crappy is that?
Like internally, they call that.
We got them golden handcuffed. They got to stay for the benefits. It's not vested for 4 years, and this is why so many people are disengaged. And so, and just trade your time for money, because one day, someday, you'll be able to retire, and then you finally get to do the things that you want when you're too damn old to be able to do them.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the notion, and it's a notion of wealth is here, and you are here, and this road is just going to be a road of sacrifice and time, and then eventually you're somehow going to get to the other side and have joy. But the reality is you kind of become the habits of that timeline.
Yeah.
And so time for money, like if you think about it, if someone tells you what to do every day and you show up and you do what they tell you to do, you're not going to get an extraordinary amount of money. But the people that can govern their own experience, that can speak something into existence that never existed before, that can, through their conversations, catalyze people to move into action, that's where the exponential wealth is through vision. Because vision creates other people's time, working towards that, other people's money, funding that, and other people's ability, serving that. And the reality is, most people are just so stuck in what can I do to just make a few more bucks. And if they think that time is the thing that matters, like they hear time is money, they're trading their time and their life for that money. And then they're supposed to just retire when they're so damn exhausted because they did so many of the things that they hated. That is a broken model that doesn't lead to wealth, even though we could read 100 books, The Wealthy Barber, The Millionaire Next Door, Baby Steps by, Dave Ramsey, whatever Susie's books are. They're all about, hey, if you're willing to do stuff now that you hate, and if you're willing to spend less money on things that you enjoy, you can have more that you never spend when you finally have it. Like, what an insane model.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here as a stand against that, a stand for people to realize they're their greatest asset, not a stock, bond, or piece of real estate. That wealth is your ability to be present, enjoy life along the way, and follow up the process, and that we deserve to do work that is meaningful and fulfilling. And I know that when I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, New York Post said, if everybody followed Gunderson's advice, who's going to pick up the garbage? I'm like, teenagers, they can learn that those aren't jobs that they want, and then they could find something else. And there's probably someone that loves doing those things that you hate.
Yeah.
I met someone in charge of the sewage department that loved their literal crappy job. So who are we to judge what people enjoy?
Yeah.
Some people hate paperwork. Other people love accounting.
And you can get innovators, right? It's like, the trash worker who then invents a better, trash machine, right?
Right.
Like
or
like
robot that will do it, or whatever it might be. So when we let innovation and ingenuity start to govern us, we create new pathways for value. And as we start thinking about how we could be value creators instead of trading time for money, this is where there's exponential growth.
So is that really, you think the biggest difference is earning more versus growing more is a deep focus on value creation?
I think it's commitment. It's resourcefulness. It's resiliency. It's just being bold. It's about, facing your fears.
Yeah.
And moving forward and acting. It's about making mistakes and then adjust. This is like, the thing is, it's not like success is I'm disciplined, so I save some money. Compound interest gets me to have a whole bunch of money 30 years from today. And because I started early enough, now I have the best life. That's what so much advice is. But I'm like, no, you grow as a human being when you commit to something that matters. And that's a game of value creation, not a game of sacrifice. When you're resourceful, meaning I don't have all the money, and I don't have all the network, but what would that take to start to develop that? Where you become more resilient. Like today, I did a podcast at 7 a.m. My buddy Mike was in town, and he was talking about this event that we met at, and he's like, dude, that event's got so good. I'm like, I should reach back out to him. So I look at their recent newsletters. I'm like, oh my God, dude, these guys would love my theatrical keynote. I sent it. They immediately sent a video. Our biggest event, this is something we'd love to have you do. Like, sweet. What had happened is I just reached out. I just connected.
Yeah.
I have all these webinars. People are like, well, what's your secret sauce? I'm like, I'm willing to hear no. I'm willing to keep asking until someone says no. And I get enough yeses that I can advance the mission and everything that I'm up to because I'm clear about what I'm doing.
Are there any books that made a big impact kind of in this understanding of Earning more versus growing more.
Economics in One Lesson. That was a huge book on me early on. Really impacted me. I mean, the 7 Habits was something I read early in my life. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, okay.
That was huge for me as well. I mean, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was such a huge book, for me as well. I mean, there's so many game-changing books that I read along the way, for sure. But more than anything, it was just experience. It was just doing things, making mistakes, and being like, what am I going to have to do to make this work? Who would I have to talk to? Who's been there before? Who can help me think through this? Who can help me to understand what I don't understand? It was joining programs like Strategic Coach in my 20s because I didn't know hardly anything about business. And all of a sudden I started to learn. It was about joining Genius Network because I knew nothing about marketing. Genius Network, Network was huge for me. Or going to the Wizard Academy in Austin, Texas from Roy Williams. It was like, I just started to go because that's how I built a network, because I bought into it. Yeah. And I added value to these people, and I built relationships, and I found ways to deliver value to them. And then I just cultivate the relationship, and they make connections. Like, I always leverage the relationship capital. Like, I remember sitting in an event, and I was like, man, I'd love to meet this person that's speaking right now. But if I just walk up to him, I'm another face in this crowd of 1,000. So I was like, I wonder who knows them. By the third text, it was someone that knew him well. So I'm going to text him and say they need to make sure to get to know you. So I went up. I'm like, hey, so-and-so. He's like, yeah, they said we need to get to know each other. So we hung out. We talked. Like, I tapped into that relationship capital. I ask all the time, who do you know? Do you have anyone that you can connect me with? All that kind of stuff. I had dinner with someone that I didn't know last night. And dude, we bonded. I immediately called him. I was like, you said things in that dinner that made me really think in a deep way. And it really touched me. He goes, dude, I felt the same way. Like, we need to get to know each other better. He's like, absolutely. I'm like, you live close to my in-laws. Let's make it happen. So I basically am going to add that person to a list that when I look at it every week, it reminds me to text, to reach out, to cultivate, to build. People just don't tap into relationship capital because they're not good at asking for support. Gotcha. Or they don't like to hear no. Yeah. And they think that they have to have everything figured out first. And they don't want to be vulnerable and say, I don't know what to do here. But people love to support. They love to pay it forward. They love to help if you give them the opportunity.
I keep going back to that Disney World idea because it's so simple.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a big issue, is like when people try to think of like, oh, how do I get to that next level of wealth, right? It seems like more and more $1 million ideas don't seem like $1 million ideas.
Yeah. You can always start small and think big. As our buddy Rich says, you might have this huge vision. You don't run there in a straight line. You zigzag your way there.
Yeah.
Move to cash flow, then to resources, then to scale, back to cash flow, right? Because if you skip those, then you might run out of cash, or you don't have enough resources and you get constrained. So it's like, you just have to, like, when I met Rich, I was like, how do I just have a game-changing impact for him? When I met Dan Sullivan, how do I have a game-changing impact? You just become an advocate. That's what I look at myself as, like, how can I be an advocate for someone? If I'm sitting down with them, like Mike, who just interviewed me this morning, he's like, dude, you're always so like generous. You always like, we should be competitors in some ways, but you just share everything that you're doing. I'm like, because what I learned quickly is the more abundant I am, the more abundance comes back to me. The more I share, the more other people share with me as well.
Yeah.
If I'm stingy and I hold it, then I don't get to learn the best of other people because they could feel that I'm hesitant or holding things back.
For someone who's struggling with that concept of, I don't have enough time, how do I start going into...
Okay, first off, let's stop there. If you don't have the time, it's like, let's do an audit.
Okay.
Like, if we look at your calendar, what are you doing? How much time are you just sitting, unclear, not doing things that are leading to what you want to? Have you cleared space in your calendar for the things that you say are most important? Have you created the structure to support the results? Like, you can just do an audit and say, are there things draining my energy? How could I eliminate those? Are there things that are neutral? That's fine for now, but can I eventually get rid of those? Or are there things that are adding energy? How can I make that happen? Are there things that if I were to do more of would help me to be better, would help me to accomplish more? Are there things that if I were to do less of would help me to be better, help me to accomplish more? Like, it's just that sometimes people don't have enough structure and intention behind their calendar that they say yes to too many meetings.
Yeah.
They have too much space where they're not able to accomplish something. Like, I use things like the productivity planner, and man, I can get so much done because I have a clear intent for the day. And I have like a little 25-minute segments that I mark off, and it just helps me to get those things done. I know that I write better in the morning than at night. I know that if I have playing time, it's a great time to write systems and processes. I know what my flow is. And so if you start to get intentional with your calendar, then what you're going to find is you can be a lot more productive. And that if you start to say no to things so that you could say yes to what's most important to you, you're going to have that notion maybe of thinking like it's stingy or selfish, but it's actually in your self-interest and allows you to serve more. But you have to start valuing yourself enough to create those boundaries and stand up for your value.
What else would you audit?
Yeah. I mean, look, what we're expert in is money. We're always looking at people like we have financial health assessments. I mean, if they DM me on Instagram, Garrett B. Gunderson, and just put financial health assessment, FHA, we'll hook them up. That's going to show you where you're set financially. Then where you're not set, or where you have financial blind spots, and it goes through every component of your money and investing. It goes through every component of your safety and security. So you have a clear picture of like what's working, what's not working, and what to improve. Like, that's another thing.
Yeah.
So money audit, time audit, and then like, what are you doing to cultivate your abilities? Like, look and say, how can I invest more in myself? Like, build a plan for that. There's things that just require time and not money for you to invest in yourself. There's other things that might require.
So set time aside for learning something new or
specific times of the day.
Yeah.
If you blow that off, then set up with like how we started. I had 3 other partners and we started a study group, and it was every Friday. And now it's all 4 of us. So we didn't blow it off because there were other people and someone had to prepare each time. And that grew into, in 9 months, we had 150 advisors joining us because they heard about what we were doing. People are hungry for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, just set yourself up for success to develop those abilities. Some people might have the discipline to just sit and watch something and be like, okay, I can do something about it. Like, I've been in programs where I'll sit and watch and take notes and then build a system based upon that. And there's other times where I'm not very good at it. You have to kind of decide what works for you. But when I was working out today, I'm listening to my spiritual mentor give a talk the whole time during the workout. And there's times like, maybe I should put on music. I'm like, no, I can be disciplined enough to listen to this and just get those nuggets that are going to feed my brain while I take care of my body. Like, you just find those processes.
In another conversation, you talked about how you had sat down one time and kind of thought about ways that you could create more income with what you were already doing, and you'd come up with like letting people shadow you on coaching calls and stuff like that.
Yep.
What was that kind of like mental audit like?
First day on a Saturday, I really combed through every expense for the previous year.
Okay.
And I said, what can I eliminate? I think we eliminated somewhere between like $150 to $170. This was back in 2002, so it was a little while ago. I remember that we got rid of a massage envy thing, which I was actually using. So that kind of sucked to get rid of that. We got rid of part of our cable, like it was his cable back then instead of streaming. So we saved money, but I remember we had only like 3 channels to watch. And sometimes I just want to watch something. There was nothing to watch because I was a cheapskate. And sure, we saved a few bucks, but then that next Sunday, I was like, all right, let's take that same amount of time and think about how can I be more productive? And so that's when I said, I should do a study group. I should restructure my calendar to only meet with clients on Monday would be for business, on like just preparation. Tuesday through Thursday would actually be meeting with clients. And then on Friday was going to be study, catch up, that kind of stuff.
That would get a rhythm.
Form the study group. And then from that study group, I started allowing people to shadow me. It was just $2,500 for the day, and they could just sit down and watch me meet with 5 or 6 clients through the day. And then I created like a $150 or I can't remember, $170 a month coaching program. I had 2 conference calls and an annual event. And, we got a bunch of people in that I was teaching. And so all of a sudden, I saved, $1,000 some dollars. Here I created more than $100,000. So the same amount of time, but one's a finite game, was more infinite game.
Yeah. So where did that idea of letting people shadow from? Like, kind of how much time did you set aside? Because I feel like that's a big part, is like, we don't take the time to think about like, what are we already doing that we could put effort into to make more money?
It came because this guy, John Henry, was like, hey, I'd love to see what you do. Love to just see like you were with a client. And he had heard from these guys, Rick and Gerald, who I was every Thursday going to meet with their clients, and we were splitting the cases. It was joint work. Like, yeah, it's pretty cool to watch Garrett with these clients. And he was like, I wonder what it's like just to go watch him. I said, you could just pay me $2,500 and come in. And then once he did, I started telling other advisors about it. They started paying to watch. And it was basically not any really extra time other than a small logistical pieces. And it actually made the client meeting even more productive. I let them chime in. It positioned me more as an authority as a young kid.
Yeah.
And, it was just, it sometimes just comes from conversation, paying attention.
Yeah. Because that's really what it was. It was people were already asking you for that thing. And then you just thought on, okay, how can I capitalize
Value yourself enough to have someone pay you.